This meeting is being recorded.
Hello, Paul. I don't know if you can hear us yet. What's going on, Cindy?
Guys, how are you?
What is up, stranger?
Hello.
How's it
Paul.
going?
Hey, Paul, I see you got two.
There's two Pauls.
There's two Pauls right now. I don't know. That's awesome. You must be logged in
You
on
have
a
a
phone.
twin?
It must be a phone and a desktop. He doesn't know. I don't know if he can hear us.
There were two Cindys too. There was the real Cindy, and then there was the Cindy whose aunt was in the hospital selling pharma
That's what
equipment.
I was.
Exactly.
Man, you got ahead of me. You're always getting ahead of me. Literally, I was gonna be like, I don't know. I like this Cindy better than the
Yeah.
one that
Thank you. Thank
This-
you.
The other Cindy, stole like $50,000 from me, and I never
From
got
people.
my farm equipment.
That's
So
right. Yeah, did you get my $50,000 check? I don't know if you did.
That it's so funny. That's been like everybody keeps reaching out about that. I'm like, all I wanted was that 18-wheeler sold for $60K. Is all I wanted.
right? Yeah.
You're back. By the way, when I looked at the inventory, I was like, Jack, we got to make a drive. We got to go check out. There's a lot of stuff.
Oh my gosh. The amount of people that messaged me about that was insane.
It was good.
So happy that's a thing
good
of the past.
publicity. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like everybody's greatest fear. So I'm glad to see that you are back and real and with us.
Yes. Two-step authentication. Make sure you have it.
Yes. Jackie, do we have two-step authentication on everything? I hope we do.
After what Kim went through?
That's true.
Yeah.
Kim,
Do
too.
you have
guys,
do you have your SIM protection on? That's the most important one.
Wait.
That is a big lesson learned from before.
we're in
Well, it's
constant
funny
fear.
because a friend of mine called me and he was like, "Oh my God, thank God you like told everyone what happened to you, because after I read your post, I turned on SIM protection." And he said, "I just got a call from AT&T and someone's actively trying to port my number, but it got blocked because I had to approve it." So he was like, "If you didn't post that, I wouldn't have had that on, and then they'd be stealing my phone number."
Correct me if I'm
insane.
That's insane. Yeah. Correct me if I'm wrong, Cindy. Did I send you a video message also? I feel like I either sent you a text message.
You
Or-
might have.
Like,
I think I
sorry about
sent
your
you a
aunt.
Yeah, saying I'm so
Yes,
sorry to hear
yes,
about
you
your
did.
aunt.
You did.
Look, you don't have to do research when you find out. You just do it, and then
Oh my
you
God.
learn later. Yeah.
Adam's sending flowers like to the funeral for your
Oh
fate.
my God.
While, by the way,
Someone-
simultaneously telling Jackie we got to go check out all the stuff that we can buy. So we're doing both at the same time. It's awesome. Most people don't even know what we're talking about. We're just chattering. That's awesome.
Oh my God.
If you guys don't know, Cindy got her Facebook account hacked and is finally back and alive on Facebook. And the real Cindy is back on Facebook.
It's
That's
back.
great
And I don't
thing.
have a dying aunt and two dying aunts, actually. Because then it was
Was
the
it
second
two?
one. Yeah, it became the second one, too.
All right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to give it a couple minutes, but let's start with something positive as we're letting people in. I know we got people coming in and real estate never happens on time. So let's do something positive. Give me something positive, Cindy. Give me something. What's going on?
What's positive? There's a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, it's busy. Like we're talking about spring market. It's busy, like very busy. And I feel like this year it really happened early, which is kind of shocking in my opinion. But I don't know. I feel like you guys would know better than I would, but I've not seen it happen that soon. Like,
Well, I feel like it didn't happen early, but it happened all at once.
yes.
So normally, like late February after Super Bowl, early March, we start to get the ramp up. We were like frozen then because of all the snow. And then
Yeah.
Easter hit and it's like April and people see the first, 60-degree day. And then it was like, bam.
I also think, Cindy, your industry is kind of like that initial gauge on like the tsunami warning ahead of time. Because if you're getting pre-approval phone calls and you getting
Yes.
people reaching out, if they're doing it the right way, many buyers are not. They're looking for the house first. But if you're getting people that are asking for pre-approval numbers ahead of time, that's at least a gauge on, all right, guys, get ready because the phone calls are going to start coming from these buyers. Right.
Now that is true. And I think that small little dip in February, because it was very short-lived, very, very short-lived. I think that sparked a ton like on our end. And I think from what I'm seeing is that unfortunately or fortunately, whichever way you want to look at it,
Right.
people keep waiting for that and it's not there. It's kind of like those people waiting for the 3%.
Mhm.
People are waiting for that 5.99 again and it's not there.
We're always
Well, or
searching for something lower.
they wait for it, then they start to hear about it, but they catch it after it's already gone and it's gone back up. But
Yep.
then all of a sudden rates went back up, but the buyers are like still out because they heard about the little dip, realized they missed it, and then they don't want to miss again, so they're like they stay out.
Yes, I agree. But there's like
This
so
is awesome. We're getting started. We jumped in, we said
All right,
something
we've already
positive,
started.
and we
Okay.
went right in without something positive. So here's what now we got more people. I want something positive outside of current market conditions, even though that's clearly everybody's positive when we start getting activity. I know I got something positive. We have a birthday boy who's not his birthday now, but it was his birthday.
Wait, if he lives in Kansas City, you're not allowed to talk about him because I see him smiling, and if
Yeah, he
that's
is
him,
smiling.
then
He
I'm
knows it.
sorry.
Kansas
His
City.
birthday
No,
doesn't
no,
exist
no,
to
no,
I live
no,
in
us.
Kansas
no, no.
City.
Yeah, no. He's in
But it is
Topeka.
draft week, baby.
Yeah, it is draft week. We're going to be talking. We're talking about Eagles Chiefs again. I feel like we're back at this, my friend, all over
I'm
again.
just saying you can't wish a happy birthday to someone that doesn't have the same beliefs as you.
No, yeah, that's true.
Wow.
I did miss his birthday. I will say I screwed up. I did not get the video message out in time. I had to do an apology message that I didn't get it out in time. But I think he forgives me for it. I love you, buddy. It's good seeing you. It's good seeing you, my friend.
Thank you. You too.
Yeah. He's in Topeka. He's in Kansas.
That's close enough, right?
It is close enough, and the Chiefs are going to be there soon, so they're actually going to be not really Kansas City Chiefs any longer.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, let's get something else positive. You give me something positive, bro. Oh, there we go. The boss is in the house now. That's awesome. Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce you to one of the funniest real estate couples in all the country. Introduce yourselves. Tell everybody who you are. Go for it.
I'm the better half. I'm Shannon Cook.
Yeah, and I'm Nick. Yeah.
That's it. That's
That's
it.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's it.
Oh, thanks, Jackie. Oh, so sweet.
Jackie loves you guys. You guys, honestly, you should follow the two of them no matter what you're doing on social media. You got to follow the two of them.
Yeah, my
awesome.
open house did win this weekend, so Shannon has to do a funny TikTok dance. So we're gonna find something for her to do embarrassing on Facebook, and we're gonna go from there.
You know what I love, Kim? We got people all over the country joining us now. Actually, let's start with that because I want to get into the market. I want to talk about the market. I'm actually going to pass a lot of this on to Kim because I always talk anecdotally about things and my experiences and the stories. What I love when I talk to Kim about this is we got to get into the actual numbers so that as professionals, we're not just saying it's the spring market to our clients. We actually know that we know the numbers, we know the statistics, we know them down to our house where we live all the way up to maybe the country. So I want to start with everybody comment where you're at in the country, because believe it or not, Kim, we're spreading. We're not global just yet, but we're getting global. We're getting close to global. In fact, if we are, please let me know if anybody here is actually outside the country right now. But if we're, but we're going to get there. We're almost there. Please put in where you're at because we're going to be talking about, first of all, numbers that are impacting everybody. Kim's going to go over what she looks at as how does she determine the market. So this is going to be affecting all of you. The numbers that exist for each of our markets are going to make it very different. In fact, where Kim and I are, like in our little area of the world, is insanely different than the rest of the country is. So Kim, why don't you take over? And when we talked about this, why don't you take over and tell everybody the data points that you look at when you're really determining the market? Go for it.
Yeah. So, does everyone know how you measure the market? Like you don't measure it in Adam thinks that it's a seller's market or Cindy thinks there's a lot of buyers out there right now, right? Like how do you actually, what's the term or what's the statistic that people use to actually measure the market? Does anyone know what that's called?
This is an unmuting adult situation, so feel free
Or
to
put it in the
unmute.
chat or,
Yeah.
you know, what do we look at when we want to measure? Is it a buyer's market? Is it a seller's market? What do we look at?
Feel free to answer it, everybody. Jackie, don't
sit here
answer.
until
We're
someone
not
has
going to
an
let
answer,
the
though.
non-real estate agent
Hold
answer.
on. Wait. Yep.
Mike
Okay.
got
So
it.
days on market. That's
Oh.
one thing you could look at. Okay, Rebecca, inventory. Yes. So and I would say both of them are accurate. I'm focusing the most on inventory levels when I'm talking about what kind of market we're in. But days on the market and list price to sales price ratios, that's all important. So the goal is to know all the data, right? To know all those things. And when we talk about actual inventory levels, we talk about the month's supply of inventory. So I'm going to ask another question. Does anyone know what that means when if I say right now in Bucks County, we're at a 1.8 in terms of month supply of inventory, does anyone know what that actually means?
While you're commenting, by the way, I want to make sure you guys know, because I'm going to assume some of you might be in your first day of real estate potentially. Like there might be some here. So when you see DOM, that's days on market. When you see MOI, that's months of inventory. So just in case someone's putting in these terms that you don't feel comfortable asking, just letting you know. All right.
All right.
Go ahead.
So how do you pronounce her name?
Viana.
Viana? Okay.
Viana.
So yeah, so Viana and Haley have the right answer. So when we talk about month's supply of inventory, which some people abbreviate as MSI too.
Yep.
So when we talk about that, we are talking about if everything stopped right now and no new listings could be listed, how long would it take for the inventory to be gone that we have currently? So right now we're like a 1.8 months supply of inventory. And I find when I'm explaining it to clients, especially, that still doesn't mean a whole lot unless you give like a frame of reference. So a typical balanced market where for every house that gets listed, another house gets sold, and it's just one for one staying steady, is more like a 4.5 to 5.5 months of inventory. So when you're talking about a 1.8, you're talking about an extreme seller's market. Now, back in like 2010, when we were in a crazy buyer's market, we had like 10 months of inventory, something ridiculous, like when every house was a foreclosure and a short sale and everything was it was flooding the market. It was an extreme the other direction. So it wasn't balanced. It was more of a buyer's market. And now we're more of in some areas in Bucks County specifically, more of a seller's market at a 1.8. But the other things, like Mike mentioned, days on market matter too, because if you're looking at your average days on market in your area, if it's 7 or 14, that's pretty quick. Whereas, again, in 2010, the average days on the market was like 200. You'd list a house and you would be thrilled if it sold in the first 3 months or 6 months. Homes where I had a listing that took 3 years to sell. 3 years that I had it on the market from like 2009 to 2012 when I finally closed on that listing.
I love your average days on market. That's a good one. That's the outlier.
Killed my average.
Yep.
3 years. Now I know some people in different areas of the country and we have different MLSs, so I can't speak to like the Texas MLSs, but if anyone is in Bright MLS, there's a market statistics report that you can run in Bright. And so I run that report once a week and I keep a spreadsheet, and the spreadsheet has week over week every Monday. So this week ending Monday, that week ending Monday, every single week ending in a Monday for the past 4 years. And when I first started keeping the spreadsheet, like it was not really, it's like, okay, well, I've got a month of data, 2 months of data. Once you get to 4 years of data, it is extremely helpful to see things start to shift, to see like, just statistics in terms of holidays, even things like that. So I use it a lot for when I have clients say to me, we're thinking of listing a house and we're going to be ready, May 22nd or whatever. And I say, well, that's going to put us to our first weekend on the market as Memorial Day weekend. And they say, oh, well, do you think we should wait? So most agents would be like, yeah, I think it's going to be slower
think.
because it's the
I love it.
holiday. And
Yep.
so I don't say I think it's going to be slower because of the holiday. And I actually just did this for a client literally like yesterday. I pulled my spreadsheet. I looked at what week's Memorial Day weekend was the past, 4 Mays. And I cut and pasted and screenshot it to her. And I said, here's the week before Memorial Day, how many showings happened. Here's the week of Memorial Day, and here's the week after Memorial Day. And year over year, there was a 50% dip in Memorial Day weekend amount of showings. So yes, I recommend that we do not list the house and go live over Memorial Day. And so like when you deal with facts like that, that carries a lot more weight than just, oh, Adam thinks it's going to be a slow weekend because he has a barbecue that he's hosting, so he doesn't want to list my house. But yeah, so when it comes to talking about inventory and the market, and you're talking to, buyers or sellers about what to expect in your buyer consultation, if they're looking in Newtown, you can run the market report specific to Newtown. You could run it for Bucks County as a whole. You could run it for Pennsylvania as a whole. And you can say, here is, what the market is in the area you're looking in. And this tells me, you should be prepared for X,
Y, and Z.
Yeah.
All right. So let's start in the beginning though, because we could go over setting expectations with both buyers and sellers, but I do like the fact that we talked about slowing it down and just bringing to light what are the data points that you should be aware of beyond. I love that we're going to say this. We're going to avoid the I think as much as we possibly can with our clients. And not, maybe you're not saying I think, but if they think that you're thinking it, instead of really showing them that you know it, how hard is it going to be for them to look at you as the professional? So I think I love it. I just said it myself.
I think.
I know it. Yeah, I love it. You're going to catch me. It's going to be one of those donation days where every time I say I think. What we want to make sure though is our clients don't think that we're guessing, that our clients don't think it. So the first thing we talked about was months of inventory. I want everybody to understand, one, why it's important for you to know what the months of inventory are literally in your sandboxes. And then the second thing that I think we have to get great at beyond just knowing it is Kim is great at communicating it so that our clients actually understand it. Because if you go DOM and MSI and LP to list price to sell price, they're not going to understand a word of what you're talking about. So the first thing is, let's talk about what data points we want to understand. And you started with months of inventory. We said days on market, and we said list price to sell price ratio, which we didn't get to yet. But then the second thing is, how do we make sure we can communicate it to the layman person so that they understand it? So let's go deeper in months of inventory. So how we explain months of inventory to our clients. Let's make sure we dig on that so that we don't just understand it, we can communicate it.
Yeah, so I give the example that I just gave, which is if everything were to stop right now and no new listings could go on the market, this is how long it would take to sell through what we have, which even that sentence alone still doesn't explain it to people. So that's when I use the frame of reference, as a comparison, a balanced market where for every house that goes on, one comes off is this, then that's when it clicks for them. And they're like, oh, okay, we're a 1.8 and you're saying balanced is a 4 to 5. And you're saying a buyer's market is like a 7. Okay, then we're definitely in a seller's market.
Yeah, so I think the perspective is exactly the point. Yeah, we have to get to with the people where they actually see almost as a percentage what really market we're in. But I do love
also like to use the example of at the extreme month after COVID happened, when every house was pulled off the market and there was barely any inventory and you couldn't even see a house and all that stuff. The lowest low that we ever were in like the history of the market since the market's been tracked was a 0.7. So a 0.7 is the lowest of all the lows. We're at a 1.8 now, and a 4 to 5 is average. Like we're still closer to that, 2020, 2021 craziness than we are the, maybe 2015 normalcy.
I want you guys to hear what Kim's talking. If you were the consumer, like if you're the seller, I'm going to put you on the seller side, even though you're not just on the seller side. But when you're with a seller who is heard from everything across the board, when you sit down with multiple agents and then one agent says, this is the months of inventory and it's a seller's market and here's what it is. And then you have another agent like Kim that'll say, it's a seller's market, here's months of inventory, but let me explain what that means and what that puts you in relation to other markets, and really show them how much better are you going to sound and how you communicate it. Because when you hear 1.8 over a normal market being 5 or 4.5, now you can see the perspective of where you're at, whether you're a seller or a buyer. From my perspective with the buyers, when you're talking about the market you're in, you got to set expectations in the consultation about what's the likelihood and the next house is going to come on. If we have a perspective of 1.8 months of inventory, we would hope for 3 or 4 times that, or say 3 times that, then they should expect when a house comes up, we're not going to be expecting a whole lot more to come on. So, but knowing it is easier, like the actual data is a lot more relatable, or sort of a lot more, they take you more professional when you have the data and you understand it and you can actually say, I know the data. It sounds like a whole bunch of gibberish, but let me then also show you how I communicate it to you in a way that you understand it. Make sense? So what other data points? We said,
Days on market.
Yep.
And days on market is important because
let's go to that.
Especially in the buyer consultation, if the average house is selling in the first week, then you're letting your buyers know, like, we can't sit on it. We can't come back 10 times. We can't.
You stay on your side. You stay on your side. I'll talk about the buying side. Why don't you talk? You talk about days on market. You stay on your side. I'll stay on my side. I'm just kidding. So yeah, but you talk about the listing side though. Like when you say days on market, let's talk about how important it is to talk about a seller so they understand really how they position themselves and how it's going to affect them.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and a lot of sellers are still coming from that buyer's market mindset of, well, we should price a little bit higher because everyone's going to negotiate and blah, 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 blah. And it's like, these are important data to give them in terms of when the house is only on the market for 7 days, the buyers are not negotiating. The buyers are giving you your list price or higher, and then that leads to the list price to sales price, and that's another really good one to show both buyers and
we're going to go to that next. Let's hold off on that one for right now.
So I mean, I think the days on the market's pretty straightforward. It's the just the average. And also I tell people that, okay, we might say a lot of times in our area it's actually like 20, but the houses that show really well are not 20. So think about the one I just said that was a short sale that took me 3 years to sell. If there's one of those on the market and all the others are selling in 2 days, the average of that market is actually going to be shifted up significantly because of that one human being that's having a, distressed sale, or they're getting divorced and they don't really want to sell and they're denying all the showings. Like their days on the market are skewing all the low days on the market too. So a 20 is not really a 20. A 20 is probably like a 6.
Yeah, because you have outliers that affect it because you're looking at overall averages.
Yeah.
The one thing that I do think it helps in days on market, and it's funny, I'm not on the listing side, but I can only imagine when you sit down with a seller and you show them, here's a home that went on the market and it's sold in 5 days. Here's another home in the neighborhood or a comparable, but it sat for 30 days, and look at the list price. We're going to get the list price and sale price ratio, but look at what the effect that days on market had in what they actually got. And when you show them not just how many, all right, I'm going to show you that I know the number. We talked about this in the beginning. We show them that we know the number that they don't know, which is the data point. But now we're going to show them how that number could either help them if they're on the good side of the number, or how they can dramatically be hurt if they're on the bad side of the number, right? So you're sitting with sellers and you're telling them what, right? Keep going with that.
So from a seller's perspective, especially prior to listing the house, but at the listing appointment, when I'm bringing the comps and I'm highlighting, how many days they were on the market, what was their starting price, what was their end price, what is that percentage? I'm making it very clear, like as we go through the homes in your neighborhood, we're going to see most of the time 2 very different things. We're going to see the homes that were actually 3 things. We're going to see homes that were priced low that ended up having a bidding war and getting, a higher percentage over their list price because they were priced aggressively. We're going to see some homes that were priced the opposite, which is they were priced way too high. Then they had a price reduction and they sat on the market and then they ended up getting less. And then we're going to see some homes that sold, in 5 days for their list price because they were priced dead on, not too high, not too low, and they got their list price and they were done. And so that's really important for a seller to see that if you overprice, it's not that market from 10 years ago where, oh, if you overprice, you're still going to get the price you want because, people make offers. No, actually, there's many times that the lower priced house got the higher price versus the higher priced house got a lower price because they priced too high to begin with.
Yeah. And they don't know it until you actually can break it down for them in that way, so that they can see the actual mistakes of it beyond just the anecdotal, oh, so-and-so told me this, or my aunt and uncle told me that. That's when you actually turn into the trusted person in the listing appointment. It's interesting because on the buying side, when you're talking about days on market, and I know you brought this up, which is, this is where we can find opportunity when we see something that's been on the market a little while, but more importantly, when something hasn't been on the market, like you said, we better understand we got to get out there now. And days on market is so low that you don't have the time you used to have. So sitting down in consultation and showing the buyer, this is why it's important right now. 1 month of inventory is at 1.8 in Bucks County. This is why when you sit down with the buyer, you set the expectation of we better get out when something comes up, because it's very unlikely many are going to come up. When they do, we go over days on market so they understand that if they're low, they better get out. The next one, does anybody have any questions about those two before we get to the last one of this? Anybody have any questions or thoughts about it? Because the last one, ironically, Kim, I actually don't know too many agents that really talk about the last one at all. It's ironic.
Adam, one of the things I was going to mention too is like when we do our days on market, we do it because in where I'm from, we sell a lot of land too. So we are calculating price per acre for a lot of these different things. And one of the things that we'll do, and it's, just like a traditional statistical thing, is just pull all of your comps, remove the lowest and the highest as your anomaly, your outliers, and then you're going to get a much better average.
Yeah.
Because there's always, at least in my world, there's always that parcel that got sold between family members for a steal, but they put it on the MLS to get volume. And then there was that one that someone came from out of state and just overpaid a crap ton and it's not worth that. So we remove the highest and the lowest, get rid of the outliers, figure out, and it's the same thing with that short sale. That one outlier is going to skew the data. So remove that and remove the lowest at the same time. You're going to get much better numbers.
I love that you said that. Actually, can I take it a step further? That if you get really good with this, you're going to get the data points specific to the style of home. The style, and you're going to remove the data points of the ones that don't actually impact the people that are looking for that style. So when you said land, it sparked me to think about this. We should be removing days on market on things like land and new construction, because when you're including those items, you're going to create outliers on your own, because new construction is going to sit longer than land.
And we use Paragon for our MLS, Black Knight. And when we go do our market statistics, it actually breaks down days on markets for 1 beds, 2 beds, 3 beds, for land, commercial, all that stuff. And then we can narrow it down into different school districts, 1 beds, 2 beds, 3 beds. Okay, if you're looking here, this is the days on market for a 3-bed house.
This is where we get to find the scientific professionals in our business, everybody, right? First of all, we have to start by understanding what months of inventory are as a whole topic. We have to understand days on market as a topic. And the last one, which we'll get to, when you get really good, you're going to really scientifically get micro, like to your market, to your style of house, to first-time home buyers, to whatever it might be. You really got to get real detailed. If you want to sit with people and show them how focused you are on them specifically, you really got to take it from, okay, because I can tell you months of inventory on the whole year. Is that going to help somebody buying, over the whole country? That's not going to help somebody buying in Bucks County, Pennsylvania.
And that's the thing, is a lot of people are like, oh, well, my uncle does real estate in Chicago and he said, and it's like, you have to understand, like, especially when you're watching the news, like the national news, and they talk about this is the inventory or this is the market. That doesn't apply to us in Bucks County. So that's national. And there's a lot of parts of the country where right now they're back to a buyer's market. So then you get people who, want to buy or sell a house in Newtown or Doylestown, and they call you and they say, well, I saw in the news that it's this or it's that. And no, that's not this market. That's the national country averages. And you've got places like, Florida where they can't give away houses because of insurance and, whatever. So you can't compare national to here. And that's why then we have to be the local experts that give them the local data.
Yeah, the only time that's going to work is if you're helping someone and they don't care about where they live. No, they actually are going to want the data for exactly to the street address of where they're going to live or where they live right now. You can't go to them with national averages ever, because you're not going to come off like a professional. All right, so let's get to the last data point, which is funny because I actually think it helps immensely on both sides of the business to understand list price to sale price ratios. And I love that you brought it up, because it's something that on my side of the business, on the buying side, has been critical to bring up in consultation. But I want you to bring up in terms of why that number is important to know, Kim, when you're pricing and listing houses and sitting down with sellers and showing them why list price to sale price ratio is going to affect them. Go ahead.
Yeah. So again, especially at the listing appointment, it's so important because people have in their heads, something that their uncle said, something their neighbor said, something they saw on TV, whatever. And then they get in their heads especially with sellers, with wanting to overprice a house. And so, when you can then show them in the market that we're in, if the house is priced properly, it's getting, 99% of the list price to the sold price. It's not going to you're not going to get these offers 50,000 under list price if you're priced right. So you have to combat their kind of, well, the last time I sold a house 25 years ago, everyone made us super low offers. That's not this market today. You didn't sell a house, in this market today. And so again, statistically, if we're using Doylestown as an example, and the homes in neighborhoods like theirs are selling at 99%, list price to sales price ratio, if they're priced right, again, not overpriced, but if they're priced right, then it's so important that you price it right the first time and you don't overprice it. And then can show them the examples of, but this one neighbor listed 50,000 above every other home in the neighborhood, and look how much less they got. They got less than the people who priced it right because they created a stigma of them being overpriced and what's wrong with the house.
And by the way, we want to be comparing two things: list price to original sale price, just so we're on the same page. I want to know, what did they sell it for based on what they originally listed it for? Because when you keep dropping the price and then get the list price, it looks like you got 100% of list price, but you dropped it. So I want to be looking at, and I want you to be looking at, when you're looking at this, what is list price against original sale price? Yeah. The other thing I want you guys to know is, it's not just knowing the numbers that are average in your area. It's actually knowing your numbers and how you compare to what the market is happening in your area. So if you go, okay, average list price to sale price on a listing is X, and you know that yours is better than that, well, you should know your number. You should know your list price to sale price ratio, and how can you promote yourself to be better than the averages, right?
Well, and there was one time, and I'm not going to name names, but there was an agent that is very well known for selling multi-million-dollar homes in and around, lower to central Bucks County. And he's also known, if you know as an agent, that his homes are always overpriced and they always sit for a very long period of time. And I had not that I'm talking bad about that agent, but again, statistics and facts, right? Yep. I had a seller who told me, I'm meeting with you and I'm meeting with that agent. And so I actually printed out my days on market and my, list to sold price ratios. And I printed out his, and I said, factually, again, he's a great guy. I like him very much, but factually, you should know that this is the difference, you know, do you want to get 100% of your list price, and do you want to, you know, sell in the next 2 weeks, or do you want to be on the market for a year and get 70%, you know?
There's
Yeah.
a layman way I used to hear John tell people. It was, if you see somebody signs everywhere, it might not be a good thing.
Yeah, because if you're selling them quickly, your signs are coming down
Yeah,
quickly.
if there's signs everywhere,
Yeah.
that means the house hasn't sold. And if
Yes.
it's just, yeah, it's for sale signs everywhere. Yeah, it could mean that they haven't sold the house and they're getting a lot of average. So I love that what you can do is find out who's actually being interviewed and then compare your actual data statistics. And we could keep it right now to literally just knowing the months of inventory in your sandbox, right? Knowing the days on market and how you compare the days on market, and then fully understanding list price to sale price ratios in your market are going to greatly impact your ability in just those data points. There's other data points, but if you just know those, yeah, go ahead.
That's what I was going to say while we were talking. I pulled my spreadsheet
I love this
that we keep. And so I'm going to tell you all the things that we track week over week. And you can see we started tracking in April of 2022. So we have exactly 4 years of data. And I can send the link out for anyone that wants to see it. Just send me a message or put your email in the chat or something. And so we track the total active listings in the market. Now, why is that important? I love that one. That's like one of my favorite ones because you can start to see fluctuations in those inventory levels, not just the month supply of inventory, but, you know, just looking at numbers
like
for
actual
instance,
you see the actual numbers of active homes. I love that.
So the one that I thought was actually most remarkable, and it's kind of happening now, but I'm going to take last year. So in January, February, March, we were pretty flat week over week at around 600 to 700 listings this is Bucks County as a whole.
Yep.
Then in April, we jumped up to 800. Towards May, we jumped up to 900. Then we jumped up to 1,000. And at a high, when we get into like late summer, when things stop selling in the fall, when, you know, rates had that spike to 8% and whatever, we got up to a period of time in November where we had 1,400 listings on the market. So it's like if you had buyers, for instance, that were looking in April and then looking in November, you could say to them, like, there's double the amount of houses right now than when we first started looking. But you also could say the opposite. If you have people that started looking in November, you could say, hey guys, you might want to, you know, make something happen right now in November, December, January, because statistically, that's when we have the most listings. Once we get into April, that number is going to drop down so much.
You know what's crazy? Do you guys want to be competing with this? Think about what you're competing with, because I guarantee you there's Kim Rocks all over all of our markets that can sit down with people that have 4 years worth of tracked data to go over with their clients. And so you're competing for that listing. You're competing for that client. Thank you for sharing it though, Kim. I love that you're doing this.
So there's I'll read.
Keep going. Keep going. No, keep going.
So there's total active listings. Then we also look at new listings in the last 7 days, which is similar to active listings, but it also shows you like, has inventory started recently hitting the market? So like, especially like the week after Easter. So if I get just as a, for instance.
So you're comparing week over week through each of these data points.
Yes, every Monday. But so this is a fun one. So in February, I'm talking 2026. In February, we had a bunch of weeks that were anywhere between like 80 to 100 new listings in the past 7 days. Then in March, we started to see a bunch of things coming on the market. From February 28th to March 7th, we went from a week of 84 new listings in the last 7 days to a week of 147. So that was 1 week, and that wasn't even a holiday week, but just for, so kind of like what, you know, Cindy and what we were talking about earlier, like spring market hit when we went from the last week of February, 84 listings that week, to the first week of March, 147 listings that week. That is a huge increase in the amount of listings in 1 week's worth of time.
So if you're sitting with a seller that week, you can literally say to them, I have 4 years of data for people that have thought about selling their home or put their home on the market. Here's where we are compared to those months, and here's what you should be doing scientifically.
Yeah.
Sound about
And
right?
to the buyers too, especially like the buyers who are like, oh, when are we going to see new houses be listed? It feels like there's nothing. You could say, well, statistically, last couple years there was a huge influx the first week of March. So, stick with it. We're getting close to March and there's about to be a bunch of new listings get listed.
I do want to bring up list price to sell price ratio. I want to back up a little bit with that with buyers and how it can benefit you in the consultation when you know the list price to sell price ratios in your market. Like you should know when homes are going on the market, what is the expectation? The buyer should know what's the expectation of negotiation. Because what they hear is, my father bought a home, my uncle bought a home, and they told me you should always do this. You always negotiate. You always offer this percentage lower, right? And they're hearing from these people that really have no idea what they're talking about. And so understanding the list price to sell price ratio always helped me in consultation to set expectations of, here's what the market's like right now. I mean, don't we think a buyer should probably have known in 20 and 21 and 22 that when they're going out to buy a home, the list price to sell price ratio went way beyond what we ever expected to like 103%, 105%. Some areas of the country went above 105%. Well, the buyer should probably know, hey, by the way, buckle up because we're going to be probably in a market where we're offering above. But by the way, you know your numbers. I know my clients' average list price to sell price ratio is consistently lower than the average in my market. So I can sit with a buyer and set myself aside and say, my clients on average see this many homes. They average seeing this many houses because of months inventory, but also my clients have a list price to sell price ratio of this, which competes with the market. If you don't know your numbers, how are you going to stand out on both the buying and selling side?
Another fun thing, I don't know if anyone here does this, and this again is for buyers. Sorry for talking about buyers, but I like it.
I'll let you do it this time.
So if you have a client looking in, Doylestown, Hunt, whatever, a certain neighborhood, and they have that, father who says, oh, you never make an offer of list price. Did you ever go back and pull the history of the neighborhood for a year and show them these are the last 8 homes that sold in that neighborhood? Oh, and guess what? They actually all sold for over. So just to set the expectation, like in the neighborhood you're looking in, they don't sit for long and they do have multiple offers.
This is why the consultation, we could do this all day. I could talk about the consultation, but this is what the expectations, when I say when we do consultations, the massive part of it is to set expectations. The market conditions are what I'm talking about. It's like I talk about climbing Mount Everest. People should know what weather they're about to hit. Like the weather is going to affect their ability to climb a mountain, just like the market conditions are going to affect them. Even if their dad climbed Mount Everest 20 years ago, it ain't going to be the same environment that it is. And so knowing what it is, knowing how good you are to compare to it matters. So I think we spent a good amount of time actually doing what we dreamed of, which is make sure everybody knows the data points, right?
Yeah. So I'll quickly tell you the last few. I won't even expand upon them, but
you can. We're good.
So again, total active listings, new listings last 7 days, new pendings the last 7 days, new total closings the last 7 days, total showings the last 7 days. And showings is the one, like I said, that I find really important when you're trying to talk about specific time periods.
Yeah.
And, what kind of activity a house is going to get. Then, of course, average days on the market, of course, average price. The number of price reductions, we track that too. That's an interesting one. Are all of a sudden a bunch of houses having price reductions? Well, that might be a sign of a little bit of a shift. And then number of expireds, which is always higher on the last week of the month than any other time because everyone sets their listings to expire at the end of the month. And then the number of agents who are showing in that market. That's most people probably don't know you can track that. But that's an interesting one. And I like to see that one because I like to see when that number gets a lot lower, then that means maybe some agents that shouldn't have their licenses might be going back to, working at Wawa.
Oh my God. I love it. All right, so I love being aware of all those numbers that you're talking about. most importantly, knowing them is going to show you to be the professional when you're sitting down with both of your clients. And I don't even know anybody that knows, like, these numbers are numbers, like, you're going deeper than anybody else, but you're also deep in years in being able to go over all these numbers. And on the, like, some of the stuff you talked about on the buying side, like, understanding on the buying side, the market is how you find the leverage points that no one else sees. Like, because what happens is we get so, like, on the buying side, we get so wrapped up in the way the market has been that we don't take the time to look at a listing that's been on the market 35 days that just happened to show up for our buyer, right? We just started searching for Kim. And so we pull up a listing and we're like, oh yeah, they love it. And the market's been so crazy. I'm not even going to take the time to realize that house has been on the market 30 days. And I know that I have leverage that I can use, but I haven't even seen it because I don't know the market. Does anybody have any questions about understanding the data points that Kim went over? What I'd like to do next, if you guys don't mind, is what's interesting to me is how different our country is and where we are, where these numbers are around the country. And so it's really interesting to me to say that when I looked up my sandbox and I look up in Bucks County specifically, I'm finding 1 to 1.6 months of inventory specifically to our area. That's like, like finding a shot glass of water in the desert, right? But when I looked at Pennsylvania and I said, all right, tell me what the months of inventory is for all of Pennsylvania. And that's 3 months of inventory. That's 3 times or 2 to 3 times the amount just in Pennsylvania compared to my little sandbox. And then I looked at the whole country, and you guys are a little bit luckier than some of them we are apparently in our little sandbox, because it's 3.5 to 3.8 months of inventory, which is, by the way, baffling to me because all of us are still technically in that seller's market. But man, 4 months of inventory for me is going to feel like, think about how that would feel to Kim and I if we sat here today and got 4 times the amount of houses on the market than what we're seeing. So let's talk about your area. What are you guys seeing in your areas in terms of inventory? Let's define, are you really in a seller's market or are you in a buyer's market? Who knows their numbers? Van, thank you. Do we know the months of inventory? Well, where are you at in New York, right? You said you're in New York. I think you're in New York, right?
New York, yeah, New York.
So what area of New York? I can't remember. I'm sorry.
Long Island.
That's
So
a
let's-
hot market, right?
It is, yeah. Right now, everyone trying to get a piece of Suffolk. So before it was Nassau, now Suffolk now.
Now
So
Suffolk,
basically, yeah, we could go about 750, and it could go 45 days to 60 days. It's really hot.
do we know our date? Do we know our months of inventory right now?
No,
Okay. Who else? Tell me else. Nick, what do you got? Tell me about your area. Tell me about the center part of our country. Not really. But
I'm actually running the
also
numbers
center.
right now. So all active in our county. Let's see here.
Let's start looking them up. Everybody pull up where you're at.
I'm looking right
It's-
now. Give me a second.
The funny thing is you could literally go on Google right now and just type in what are the months of inventory
Yeah,
of real estate for
probably.
my town and get at least a number, right?
Yeah.
So everybody take 2 seconds right now, use the Googly and say, what are the months of inventory of real estate in my specific town? What do we got?
We are at 357 listings, which puts us right around 1.2 months.
Look at you. You're lower than us, buddy. That's what happens when you have all this land and all these homes spread out over
Yeah.
land. You
We
gotta
just
build
put an
more.
o- We just put an
Yeah.
offer on a $175,000 house and lost because it went 30 over asking.
Yeah. And the one thing is, I am seeing wherever we are, when the inventory is low, the competition is there. The buyer competition is showing up right now. Well, and we're going to talk about this because there is some bipolar nature to our area. I think Kim and I we're very clear. There is bipolar nature to our market in the fact that if you don't price it right, the market's going to tell you that you're going to sit. And the problem right now in our area is 7 days is a lifetime. when I see as a
Well,
buyer, yeah, again,
it's the price and the condition. So the buyers are getting so picky. And like I met with a seller on Monday, and they have new siding, new roof, new windows, and they said to me, because they have a old original like 1990s kitchen and bathrooms, and they flat out said to me, and I knew where she was going with this, and she was like, are the buyers going to see the value in that? And I said, unfortunately, this is like one of my pain points is I kind of want to strangle some buyers who they look at a kitchen and a bathroom and say it needs too much work or it needs too much updating. And meanwhile, it's got the $100,000 hardy plank siding. It's got a $20,000, $30,000 roof. It's got $30,000 in windows. It's got all new Anderson doors. It's got gutters. It's got, and it's like they put in $200,000 into the exterior, but they have a 1990s kitchen, and the buyers are going to say, nah, it needs too much work, and they're not going
this
to
is
make
the
an offer
crazy
on that house.
this is the crazy bipolar nature of our market right now, because the inventory should tell us, with the amount of inventory we have, it should tell us that that shouldn't happen. Because there should, we remember the inventory in 2020, it was the same thing. And we had buyers that would be like, I don't care.
Take anything. They would,
as
it
long as
didn't
there's
matter
4
if
walls and a bathroom for me to go to the bathroom, and I don't even care if there's a kitchen.
there could be a train running through the backyard and airplanes landing on the house, and like they would be like, it's okay, we're fine with that. But now all of a sudden they're like, oh, if it's not perfect. So my question, and maybe this is a question for Cindy.
This is a Cindy question. This is absolutely a Cindy question. And if there's any other lenders here, any other lenders, but this is a Cindy question.
Is it that, as like when rates were 3%, people were like, oh, money's so cheap, we don't care, we'll update a kitchen, we'll update a bathroom, we don't care. And now they're like, well, our payment's so high, we don't want to also update a kitchen.
Yes, we're finding that too.
Doris, I'll get you 1 second, by the way.
So one of the things, I mean, and it's hard because of the market that we're in, showing that there's low inventory, like a renovation loan could work for somebody like that. But the problem becomes, is the seller going to accept the renovation loan? Probably not, because there is somebody out there that is going to buy
offer
it.
without it.
So, and that's going to delay the days on market too because of that. But yes, I do agree with that, Kim.
Yeah. I think there's also some shock that buyers have right now, where when they see a new house go on the market, they're almost afraid to enter the world of Piranha. And ironically, the Piranha aren't even there sometimes. They're not there the way you think they're going to be there, because now, like I have clients, the perfect house came up, but there's a chicken coop in the neighbor's yard behind it. Like that never would have been a problem like 3 years ago, 4 years ago. And so, yeah, I love you, but I think interest rates are affecting the demand enough where we're hearing, it's funny, I love saying this. I love hearing listing agents talk about having to sit with a seller and show them why pricing their home is right, and the frustrations that some of these listing agents are having with the home that's not selling because of the complaint, the picky buyers. It's like that small violin that I want to hear, because the normal market is going to bring equal complaints from listing side than it does from buying side, right? And we went through a lot of years where the listing side didn't really have a lot of complaining to do about the way the market was for them. And so when we're starting to hear Kim complain a little bit, or listing agents complain a little bit about the seller that didn't listen to them and price it right, and now it's negatively affecting them, it means the market is starting to normalize, and you have to pay attention to, even if inventory is low, demand might be low enough to get opportunity for buyers. Doris, what do you got?
Oh, sorry.
I want to go to Doris because she had a question or something to say. What do you got, Doris?
Okay.
It's good to see you, by the way, also. I haven't seen you, so very good to see you.
Yeah, I completely agree with everything that's being said. I'm in Abington Township, so I mostly sell around here within, 5 to 10 miles, and mostly a listing agent. A little more buyers showing up this spring, though. But yeah, I have said for the last about a year, the price compared to the condition is key.
It matters now.
Where a lot of sellers still are like, yeah, but mine is better. Mine is better. It's not. And if it's 20 grand over, that I have found consumers will sniff it out. Now, I showed buyers a really beautifully maintained property in part of Abington Township called Crosswicks. And it was really, really well maintained. I mean, the minute you walked in, you could tell it's a quiet, beautiful neighborhood. Abington Schools, 699. My buyer's like, oh, it needs too much work. And she's cash. The property across the street sold for 500, had an addition, resold within months for 900.
Yep.
So for best of best in that neighborhood, you're at 9. I'm like, I don't get it. First of all, it didn't need 3. It needed a new kitchen.
I think what we're finding, our buyers are more willing to be patient than they were before. And so what happens is if you just take it to one neighborhood, it used to be if one house went on the market in a neighborhood and they were the only home on the market, the piranha jumped. Even if you're the only home on the market in your neighborhood and you put your home on the market now, if you don't price it right and it doesn't show well, the buyer will just say, you know what, I'll wait.
Yeah, but this did show beautifully. And you know, I think it's my buyer being too picky. They absolutely want the neighborhood, but it's already under contract. I mean, it went on last Friday. So
they got to feel the market also has to tell the buyer when the pain exists, they have to feel the pain so they understand what you're saying actually is real. And so they have to see the way the market works. Do me a favor though. I want to hear the months of inventory. I want to see what the months of inventory, if anybody popped them in, just so we can hear, like, just generally speaking, are all of you, is anybody feeling like right now we feel bipolar, Kim and I? We feel like, okay, there are some homes that are sitting there and they're going on the market and they're on their 30 days.
Same.
And I'm not joking. I had my clients, we literally in Newtown. Yes, Kim, I go to your sandbox too. You talk about Doylestown. I talk about your sandbox. And so we had a buyer in Newtown. House is on the market for 750, 10 offers. My buyer won out going 50 grand over asking price. But ironically, it appraised for 5 grand even over that. So my clients never even had to cover the difference in an appraisal gap. But think about that house. It went on the market. They priced it 750 when it appraised for 805. They got 10 offers and my client bought it. And they're ecstatic because they bought it and found out it appraised for even more than what they bought it for. If that person priced it at 805, they might have gotten no offers, even though they were the only one on the market. That's how critical knowing your market's going to be, guys. What else?
So I think it's just funny though, because it is so bipolar that, like, if you ask me, I'd say, oh, I have a couple listings that are sitting just because they need a little bit of work and whatever, and the buyers are so picky and blah, blah, blah. But then if you ask my team, who, you know, is doing they're mostly buyer's agents, they're like, oh my God, how am I going to deal with this market? Because the summer's going to be crazy because I just had 5 offers made and they lost to waived inspections and they lost to cash and they lost to 100,000 over and this and that. And it's like,
why are they not matching up?
Neither of those things are the explanation of the entire market. It's just that though there might be 5 houses on the market, 4 of them are ugly, 1 of them is beautiful. All the buyers went to the beautiful one and they're like, oh my God, this market's crazy. But what they don't realize is, okay, we could go to one of these 4 slightly uglier houses and we actually could get an offer accepted with inspections and appraisal and everything else. But everyone is just focusing on the traction that the one beautiful house had, and they're making generalizations that that's the whole market, and it's not. It's very like polarized.
What about everybody else? Like Nick, tell me about, if you would describe your market now that we've talked about the data points without even getting to the specific data. We have people literally in Texas. We have people in Kansas. We have people in California here. We have people even in Washington. So tell me your market. Are you seeing it heavy seller? Are we leaning towards buyer, or are we bipolar like Kim and I?
Seller.
Okay.
Yep. Priced right, they're usually sold within 24 hours here.
So the expectations is buyers better get out. What about list price to sell price? Are they going over?
So that's actually kind of interesting that we bring that up, because I was just looking, because our MLS actually tells me exactly what the ratio is.
Yeah.
So it's kind of funny because we're talking about, like I just said, we got beat out by, $30,000 over on the house. But this year, we're at about a 97% ratio is about where we're at. 97.5, 98% ratio from sales price, from list price to sales price.
I wonder how
So-
that would compare year over year. Like if we looked at 2020 to 21 to 22, how that would look in your area.
2022 for the exact same time period for those, it's at 100.88%.
This is a number, by the way, guys, that I've always been intrigued by. It's funny because we're talking about it because I bring it up and no one really knows list price to sell price ratio, but it's such an impactful number when meeting with buyers and showing them, by the way, it's funny. When I really got in those, I remember them being more like 94 and 93.5%. Like a normal market, you'd be looking at 94, 95, and you could tell your clients, my clients on average are at 90%. And then all of a sudden you're prideful that your clients could be at 100% because the average market is at 105 or 110.
Right.
But I actually think this number makes both listing agents immensely stand out because it compares what you're doing against the market. And it also, on a buying agent side, shows how you're winning. And if you really are good at it, you're winning and beating a market average. They want that. Look, well, we talk about this. People want to save their money. They want the person that's going to put money in their pocket. So while Kim's trying to get a higher list price to sell price ratio, I'm trying to get a lower one. It's just how it so happens, guys, that we're in a market now where your skills are going to affect your numbers. And I know I'm saying this, and it's kind of like we've been fighting through this seller's market where this listing agents are going to kill me. I'm going to be like, where did Adam go? Every listing agent that he ever talked about is going to murder him. But what I'm saying is, like, we should be in a market where we have equal frustrations about how tough it can be in the markets we're in. It should be equal. Kim should be talking about the seller that's not listening to her, just like I'm talking about the buyer that's not listening to me. We went through a lot of time where listing agents didn't have a whole lot to complain about. And so you got to be aware of where you are in your markets and actually show how you can stand out. If you're a listing agent that's won in the last 5 years, be careful because you might have been winning, but not actually winning, and your numbers are going to show. If you're a buyer agent, start listening to the listing agents call you for feedback. If you're getting calls for feedback right now, the market's shifting. If you're seeing days on market and a house stay on the market for two weeks when a year ago they weren't staying on for 30 seconds, the market's shifting. This is what you're telling your buyers in consultation so you can set expectations that you know the market, you know your numbers, you know the numbers of the market and how you're going to stand out. Sorry, I went off. I am breathing, I promise. Does anybody have any questions?
That's just Adam fashion. You're good.
I know, it's right. Most people are like, does he even ever breathe? Like, yeah, anybody
Don't
who's got
worry, if I come murder him, I'll wait and do it when you're at work, so you don't have to be present for that.
It's funny. I saw Kim the other day, and she was talking to me about the market and how it can be frustrating for these listings that aren't listening to her. And it was like I was listening to her, and I was quietly enjoying the listing agent who's telling me how tough the market can be.
He got out his little fiddle and everything.
I did.
Yeah.
Because I mean, think about the buying side for all those years. When you have the buyer and they do write the competitive offer that is what it should be, and you're destroyed by the market that you can't control. And so none of us can control probably the market. I wish we could. But what I'm hoping you're hearing from today is, one, you better know your numbers and understand the data points. To be a great agent, you have to understand the numbers beyond just, what did I say? What do we say? I feel, I think.
Yeah. I feel.
Right.
Use facts, set the proper expectations with your clients, and then you are setting both them and yourself up for success instead of failure.
Yeah. If you really know your numbers, that's the starting point. And then the second thing is, these people don't know what you're saying when you're using terms that we understand that they don't understand. So you know why Kim's probably really great? She could take numbers that sound like gibberish to most people and convert them to understandable numbers that will get people to move in the direction they need to move. So you need to understand the numbers, but you also have to be great at communicating how those numbers are going to actually affect them. in your market, in your area. Van, what do you got?
I been helping this buyer. He looking for something small in the Bronx for his new family. A couple, a young son. So we spent a couple months looking, super busy. We keep looking and watching. He's speaking the same language, so I'm having a little bit more patience. But then eventually we found something we like, he liked, and he bring the whole family over. We put out an offer. Now, he selected an attorney that I knew that in our community is not really good. He ruined my deal. So I told him the fact.
Yes.
He still wanted to go forward because of the language situation. So we went there, the attorney sent the contract. It took 2 weeks for the attorney to draft.
Because the attorney did what you expected them to do, which is fail.
And 2 weeks later, nothing happened. The seller attorney didn't receive anything. So I advised my buyer to cancel the check and do a FedEx, or I just go to the office. I'm gonna take everything and bring it over because the two offices not far. It's also in the Bronx. He ended up canceling the deal because he said this is bad luck because it's too much issue going on.
Yep.
How would I advise my buyer moving forward of a next deal? How would I say it nicely?
You have to. Well, first thing, you did the right thing in the beginning by letting them know the warning signs and the things you were concerned about, because sometimes we warn our clients and our buyers about what's going to happen, and they still run headfirst into the wall, even though you told them. And so we can't always stop our clients from the accident that's coming. But in this case, my hope is that you can go back to them and say, see what happens. Let's avoid this. Let's make sure this doesn't happen again. And make sure that you put them in touch with that attorney now before it gets to that point again. So what I would tell you is get them in touch with the superheroes before you even get under contract. Here's the attorney that we trust before you even start the process. Because when you get into this and you have the people ahead of time, they'll work with them and you won't be hearing they're going to work with somebody when you're already under contract. Make sense?
Thank you.
One thing I will say this, none of this is perfect, everybody, right? So I will say I love the times where I tell my clients, hey, you want to avoid this. It's not going to help you. You're going to get hurt. They all sometimes still do it. And then they have to come back and go, all right, we're not going to do that again. They'll listen to you the second time. Just make sure they listen to you the second time. And if they don't, then you have to realize maybe they're not the right client for you too. All right. What else? I want to thank Kim. I love you. I appreciate you so much for keep doing this with me. I love that you guys are joining this. If you guys have any other agents from around the country that would benefit, send them the invitations to this. What we're trying to do is come together at least once a month so that we can keep polishing our client machines and getting better wherever we are in the country. The cool thing is days on market, months of inventory, list price to sell price ratio. It matters to all of you wherever you are. So I appreciate you guys joining us. Kim, thank you.
Thank you.
Does anybody else have some questions or parting shots? Because I'll stick around for as long as we need. Go Birds, Nick. Go Birds, Nick. Go Birds. Go Birds, Nick. Go Birds. You can say it, buddy. Say Go Birds. You can say it, buddy. I got you to sing that.
Absolutely not.
Just so you guys all know, he sang
I
the Eagles.
sang it because I'm a man of my word, and I will honor the bet.
He got the Eagles fight song. We have it on recording, and we're going to be playing it for everybody. When the season starts, once a month, I'm playing it for everybody.
I still have that shirt, by the way.
I love it.
Who to give it to?
I love it. All right. If you guys need me for anything, please let me know. I'm always around. You can find me on Instagram. You can easily message me. If you guys have any questions, I'm easy to find. Kim, I'm going to give out your cell phone number and your home number to everybody. So don't worry. I'll make sure everybody can show up at your house.
Home number? Who has a home number?
I know. I'm going to give your home address to everybody so everybody can find you.
And if you want to send me the list from the chat of the email addresses, I'll send people the spreadsheet.
That's a great point. You don't have to do that, Kim. We'll take care of it. So
okay.
Courtney has everybody's email address. So Courtney, if you could email Courtney, Kim.
Okay.
Yes, if you could email Courtney, then she'll get everybody,
Alright,
disperse to
Courtney,
everybody
I'll
the
send
link.
you the link.
Okay,
We'll get it to
I already have
everybody.
the emails loaded in an email ready to go. So
We're
All
already-
right.
My
We'll
Wizard of
get a
Oz.
recording.
She's ahead of it.
My Wizard of Oz is taking care of everything behind the scenes. It was much better to see the better half, Nick.
That's what I'm saying. That's
Please
how
have
I
her
feel.
sit in next time.
I'm sitting here and she's in,
She shouldn't be working. You should be working. All right. I love you guys. I'm going to let you guys all go.
Bye.
I'll see you guys next month.
Bye.